All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let us begin. Baruch Hashem, brand new os in Tzidkas HaTzaddik today. Really fascinating topic. So also, let's begin. We're on page. Oh, you know what? I realized I didn't send it out on the WhatsApp, but okay. Well, I'm going to Hashem for tomorrow. So we're starting in Sif Nun, Os Nun. So we're going to begin in the Be'orei Chasidus, page Kuf Yud Tes, and the Rebbe says as follows. So just the introduction of Be'orei Chasidus is as follows. The Acher Shem Vuar. Excuse me. Ba'os HaKodemes. Shach Yisarnu Simon L'mayla Shetispech Lios Acharov V'shekfi Erech HaMayla Kenu Chosa Yisarn HaMakdimo. Amashi, thank you. Yispire Khan Shekenu HaSeder Gam LeInyan Hazman Haray LeYeshuas Hashem Yisbach. Suppose remember again, we've spoken extensively in Os Mem Tes about the powerful yesod of the Rebbe. The yesod being that every person has that thing they struggle with in life. My mission in this world is to go ahead and to fix that thing. And when I'm able to fix that weakness, that actually becomes my greatest source of strength. The Rebbe is now going to go ahead and extend this concept in an interesting way. He says, listen to this. Every type of salvation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides for us. He says, Hein bebane, chaye, mizone, hein b'yeshuas hanefesh, whether it's through children, giving me life, giving me parnasa, spiritual salvation. Yesh shnei ofanim lahagas hayeshua. There are two ways, Rabbi will say, in life that we come by way of life salvation. So first of all, it's interesting what the Rebbe considers under the umbrella of Yeshuas Hashem. What's under the umbrella of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's salvation of God, children, parnasa, life, and ultimately spirituality. Now, obviously, my spirituality is up to me, but the notion of my ability to have circumstances which facilitate or to allow for the actualization of my spirituality, that's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rebbe says something amazing. He says, salvation, personal salvation, comes about in one of two ways. He says, K'ma shenemar ha'geula ha'asida, Ani Hashem bi'ita achishani. He quotes the pasuk from Yeshaya, and the Navi Yeshaya, when speaking about messianic redemption, Mashiach says, Ani Hashem, I am God, bi'ita achishana. In its time, I will hasten it. In its time, I will hasten it. So we'll say, so this is incredibly beautiful what the Rebbe does here. He says, he understands bi'ita achishana is actually a reference to two modes or two constructs of salvation. There's Be'ita and there's Achishena. For example, he says, Ofen HaRishon, the first way that Hashem brings about salvation, he says, Ofen HaRishon, Hu Shetihye Be'ita. The first form of salvation is for the salvation in Yeshua to occur in its time. What does this mean? Ubizmana hamiyuad legula, va'ofen sheni legula, hu shashem yisparach omer achishana. So the first form of geula is when geula occurs in its appointed time. Well, we'll see what this means, but in the quote unquote the right time. The right time, that's a reference to be'ita, in its right time. The second way in which geula occurs is achishana. Achishana means kilomar emoher va'achish es hageula. Va'aviena kodem she'egia zmana. That's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to bring the geula even earlier than it should naturally come. So just to be clear, the context of the pasuk in Yeshaya is speaking about messianic redemption. Right? That's clear. What the Rebbe is now doing is he's going to go ahead and highlight that this concept really applies to all forms of geula. It refers to messianic geula, but it also refers to personalistic geula. And personalistic geula, as the Rebbe said in the introduction, manifests itself in a variety of ways. A person's privileged to have children, a person's privileged to have parnasa, a person's privileged to have life, all these different things, these are all different manifestations of personalistic geula. How does geula occur? One of two ways. Be'ita, in its right time, or achishena, in a hastened or expedited fashion. So we'll say, so watch this. Umuvar b'divrei Chazal. So let's analyze these two different timelines for Geula. So Chazal explain, Shim Zachu Yisrael Tiskayim HaGeula Ba'ofen Achishena Dahainu Shetavo HaGeula Lifnei Zmano. So Chazal explain that if Klal Yisrael, if we're Zocha, right, if we're privileged or if we're fit, in other words, if we do what's correct, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu expedites or fast tracks the Geula process. Dahainu Shetavo HaGeula Lifnei Zmano. The Geula will come before its time. Aval gam im chas v'shalom lo zachu Yisrael mitzad maaseyem tiyah hageula mikomakom be'ita ubizman hamiyuad la. So it's very important. So when do these different timelines occur? If Klal Yisrael, if we exceed expectations, and if we do ultimately again that which we are supposed to be doing, then achishena, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu expedites Geula. But if at the end of the day we don't do what's expected of us, we don't live up to expectations, here's the good news. Well, there's bad news and there's good news. The bad news is I'm not living up to the expectations. The good news is HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send Geula regardless. Right? Again, right now the context is Messianic redemption. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends, meaning there is a point by which Mashiach will come, whether we deserve it or not. That's the good news. And my goal is to go ahead and earn it and thereby expedite the process. That's achishena. But if not, ultimately, again, be'ita, it'll still come, Mashiach will still come, quote unquote, in the zman hamiyuad la. See, goes on. Ukimokein, so we'll say, what applies to Messianic redemption applies to personalistic geula as well. This is really incredibly profound. Ukimogein, haga'os kol Yeshua pratis, hanitzreches la'adam me'izat sara pratit, so to any type of personal salvation that I need from any type of personal tzara, gam hina asis ba'ofen shnei ofanim elu. So we'll say the same way that Messianic redemption comes in one of two ways, bi'ita or achishana. It could come in its appointed time. In other words, I don't deserve it, but there's a certain point where Mashiach will come. By or achishana, I could expedite redemption through my personal behavior. So too, personalistic geula comes through one of these two ways. Ha'ofen harishon, I'm in the left-hand column, page Kuf Yotes. Ha'ofen harishon shall be'ita legabi Yeshua aso hapratis shala adam. Hainu kishegia hazman shekvar makir ha'adam umargish shechasar la'adavar. So now listen to this. So there's a little bit of a distinction. In national geula, national redemption, Mashiach. So the two models that the Rebbe is highlighting is geula comes in one of two ways. Be'ita, which means again in the appointed time, which the Rebbe understands to mean I am not living up to expectations. I'm not doing that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked of me, but the way geula works is there comes a certain point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send Mashiach regardless. But I have the ability through my actions, achishana, to expedite the process. When it comes to personal geula, my personal salvation, I also remember again, as HaTzaddik said, personal salvation is manifest in children, parnasa, life, salvation from difficulties. There are two ways in which my personal geula could come. Bi'ita and achishena. So he says over here something amazing. What does bi'ita mean for personal geula? In the time means I recognize that I am deficient. I recognize that I'm missing something. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now the moment has come and I realize I don't have something that is personally salvational. I don't have children. I don't have parnasa. I don't have health. I recognize that there's something missing in my life right now, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I need your help. That's bi'ita. So bi'ita means I recognize the absence of something, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm reaching out to you to help me with it. But then there's another level of personalistic gula. Listen to this. The other level is, he says, I'm sorry, let me finish the paragraph here. Shekvar makira adam umargish shechasar ladavar umachmas kein hutzami liyeshua Hashem yisbarach shumakar hashefa Umishtokik b'chol libo lidavar hahu berov cheshek. A person desires that thing so badly. V'umevin shenitzrach la liyeshua. So we'll say, so the first level of personalistic geula is, I feel a gaping hole in my life. I feel something is absent. I feel something is missing. I've identified the need that needs to be filled. That's bi'ita. So I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. We'll have to stop over here because we have to start the daf. But in Meretz Hashem, we'll see tomorrow what achishena means. So okay, I'll tell you. So I'll say, so what achishena means, says the Rebbe, means sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills my need without me even realizing that I needed it. Right? So sometimes in life, I am acutely aware of what I need. And I ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to tell me with that. And sometimes in life, the Ribono Shel Olam does something so incredible in that He fills the need. He gives me what I need. He provides personalistic salvation before I even realized that I was missing something. So we'll stop here. Well, the Meretz Hashem continue. We'll say, I just want to tell you, this is a transformative piece. As you've seen, these last pieces by HaTzaddik are transformational. We will see in Meretz Hashem that this piece of the two models of personalistic geula are once again going to allow us to reframe the events of our lives in such a dramatically different way. So we'll stop here, pick up Meretz HaTzaddik tomorrow.